It could be said that humanity has a strange relationship with money. Money, power, wealth, and success would all seem to be lumped together in a sticky and heavy soup of indiscriminate magnetism that can be viewed either beneficially or with suspicion. No other creature on the planet needs tokens to live by, or trades in the same way as humanity has, cleverly or otherwise devised. It is true that there are symbiotic relationships in nature. In fact, all of nature could be said to be in balance, or even parasitic relationships, as the love of power and wealth has too readily become. There is this saying or thought that money implies corruption. In some ways, the pursuit of money has corrupted the planet, exploited workforces, maintained impeachable power structures, or polluted and stolen the food of other living creatures. It is in money, beyond any other subject, that we see the devil. For he is the material force, turned heavy, oppressive, and devouring. His is the lust, turned to dangerous madness. Here is the greed that has become self-destructive. Here is the love of other and together, thrown aside by the love of self. Since I've started with this discourse on the devil, let's get straight in. What a dangerous subject, enough to make your blood turn cold with fear. Perhaps the devil makes you red with anger instead. Much ridiculous nonsense has been spurned, been churned, been dreaded, been embraced. Many New Agers, many Wiccans, many spiritual practitioners may one day come face to face with that attitude to the devil. Satan, as he likes to be known, is a construct of Christianity, and while many Wiccans eschew this Christian notion of the horned god being anything other than another power in the universe, and being very much misunderstood while calling on his Christian name, which means accuser, and implies rebellion and sin against the will of God. I always think it is an unfortunate hypocrisy. The Satanists are commonly known for inverting the pentagram, which in its upright position portrays the will of heaven over the will of earth. When matter is placed over spirit, it is saying to many that it is lording the power and wealth of the material world over spirit and the higher will, and yes, indeed, over God himself. To many, this is the enslaver of mankind. So we're here to discuss this concept of the devil, and as Wiccans to understand how this may relate to our concept of material benefits and wealth, and asking for better conditions and better relationship with the world and with materialism itself. Whether you like it or not, mostly we are raised with this Christian theology. This earlier and Talmudic theology, even in rebellion, it is this construct at work. The devil stands for matter, material riches, physical lust. Satan stands as the accuser to the will of God, and in this respect, how earthly ego can become misguided and lost. Now, mentioning the devil may seem a little strange, but I mention this to illustrate how we must deal with our own internal mythic intelligence, which speaks in stories and parables. It is the language that we have learned first. And even if we rebel, we may not see that this is still letting the narrative drive our choices and our will. I quote from Wikipedia. Satan had a minimal role in early medieval Christian theology, but he frequently appeared as a recurring comedic stock character in late medieval mystery plays, in which he was portrayed as a comic relief figure who frolicked, fell and farted in the background. He is the buffoon, the gross, the filth of ignorance. It was only later he became a much more feared and demonic figure. This came with the many witch hunts where women had consorted with the devil and challenged God in his assigned role of dealing death and illness as his will demanded. In this figure, God is seen as much more wrathful and a feared figure. Thus, the shadow side of what is termed in modern psychology as splitting, i.e. seeing things in dualistic opposition rather than as varying shades of grey, wreaks havoc with the denied shadow aspect of yourself or of any other person. And so, we must move away from this categorical opposition when viewing the material life with the spiritual life. Sometimes we eschew the material for the idea that it is somehow in opposition to our goodness and spiritual salvation. Let us continue to seek out the devil, name him, and see where he has misled us away from true will and true power. In the Islamic world, Muslims do not regard Satan as the cause of evil, but as a tempter who takes advantage of human inclinations towards self-centeredness. Most early Christians believed firmly that Satan and his demons had the power to possess humans, and exorcisms were widely practiced by Jews, Christians, and pagans alike. Belief in demonic possession continued through the Middle Ages into the early modern period. Exorcisms were seen as a display of God's power over Satan. The vast majority of people who thought they were possessed by the devil did not suffer from hallucinations or other spectacular symptoms, but complained of anxiety, religious fears, and evil thoughts. These demonic entities are very real, at least in my opinion. Anyone who has lived in or spent the night in a place reputed to be haunted may understand these dark energies I am talking about. I see them not as poor, misunderstood or misrepresented, but very much entities that are frightening, malignant, poisonous to one's spirit, and invasive to one's sovereignty. Such lower astral energies are heavy and lost in many ways. Modern New Age thought is that they are entities that have been ravaged by their addictions to the material world, and so cannot now leave and reach higher states of spirit. They remain like parasites around their hosts, and finding a chink will invade and possess a person's mind and will. These are very much the lower alcoholic energies, the abuser, the murderer, the menacing and oppressive haters. They are the selfish, the controlling thugs of the astral realm, and very much exist in the psychic spaces of our worlds. This is in contrast to the spiritual possession of the shaman, whose ancestors may enter their bodies, making them physically shake. Native Americans were accused of devilish possession, as were shamans under communist China. So what is the difference between a lower level spirit and a guiding spirit? I will not answer this yet, but let's carry on. By the High Middle Ages, Satan and devils appear in all works of Christian art, in paintings, sculptures, and on cathedrals. Satan is usually depicted naked, but his genitals are rarely shown and are often covered by animal furs, which Revelations describes as the number of the beast. However, the beast mentioned in Revelation 13 is not Satan, and the use of 666 in the book of Revelation has been interpreted as a reference to the Roman Emperor Nero, as 666 is the numeric value of his name in Hebrew. The three synoptic Gospels all describe the temptation of Christ by Satan in the desert, in Matthew, Mark and Luke. Satan first shows Jesus a stone and tells him to turn it into bread. He also takes him to the pinnacle of the temple in Jerusalem and commands Jesus to throw himself down so that the angels will catch him. Satan takes Jesus to the top of a tall mountain as well. There he shows him the kingdoms of earth and promises to give them all to him if he will bow down and worship him. Each time Jesus rebukes Satan, and after the third temptation he is administered by the angels. Satan's promise in Matthew and Luke to give Jesus all the kingdoms of earth implies that all those kingdoms belong to him. The fact that Jesus does not dispute Satan's promise indicates that the authors of those Gospels believed this to be true. According to the parable of the sower, Satan profoundly influences those who fail to understand the gospel. His connection to the material world is apparent, and it is this difficulty that we sometimes need to overcome, however subconsciously, when we deal with the matter of matter. Many Wiccans, etc., do not feel that they understand Christianity, that it holds enough meaning for everyday life. And while they may not hate the benevolence of this entity we call God, ours is an earth-based religion, centred on the feminine and masculine, as harmonious and intertwined in divinity. Some go further and embrace the Pan form of this cosmic power. He is, after all, the maker of delight, the player of heavenly music, the fun of fauns. This satire is derived from a Roman deity and earlier Greek myth. And Saturnalia is the feast in the grip of winter that sustains the joy of living through dark times. Saturn is a limiting force in the universe. Deity of restriction and karma, his toll can be heavy. His rule authoritarian. His feasts are debauched, know no limits, and are unrestrained. Like Bacchus, he drinks, he farts, he falls, but all in good fun. How do we see ourselves? How do we reset ourselves? How do you reset yourself in relation to these myths? It is my belief that we need to address Satan, the devil, and Pan if we are fully to develop our own spiritual wealth. Now, many people seem to have wealth, but on the whole, we view them with suspicion. Our Christian upbringing may have caused us to identify poverty and suffering with being good and getting to heaven, and this may hold us back far more than we realise. On the other hand, maybe we do not feel that we are good, and these intrinsic faults are holding us back. We do not deserve the good things in life. We do not feel that we are good people. So here is a small exercise. What do you think of rich people? Write down a list and ask yourself, does anything reflect the devil here? The second exercise. Now focus on positive aspects of wealth. Try not to let any negative thoughts enter your mind. Try to find as many benefits as you can in having wealth. Now go back over your list and see where you may have been greedy. Do you really associate the benefits of wealth with greed? If you need to, spend some time rewriting your list. But this time, try not to focus on unrealistic expectations or magnified, grandiose, but unnecessary trappings. So throughout this discourse, I've tried to raise some points about our deep conditioned mind. We have to confront the devil in witchcraft. It could be said that traditional folk magic knows very well this devil. They also know and use the name of God in many of their spells. Somehow we can reconcile this deeply ingrained symbolism, and I think it's something that we need to do if we need to come to terms with our existence in this material reality. Thank you for listening. If you have any comments, please let me know in the comments below what you feel of the devil, the material world, and of being pagan and overcoming a Christian background. Thank you, and I hope to speak to you all again soon. Bye.